So here's the RDA, the EAR, and the adequate intake, the AI, not artificial intelligence. So the estimated average requirement is the EAR. So the EAR is nutrient intake value that is estimated to meet the requirement of 50% of healthy individuals in a particular age and gender. So male or female, and the age ranges are like 20 to 30 years. So it's really not a very accurate description, but it's the best that we have on a large level now. It's way better than the RDA because it's less generalized. So the RDA is the dietary intake level. So it's different, you guys. The EAR is the nutrient intake level. The RDA is the dietary intake level that is sufficient to meet the nutrient requirement of nearly all 97 to 98% of healthy individuals in your gender and age group. So the EAR is based off of a more accurate diagnosis of what you're actually getting into your body, and it's not as big of an average, so overall it's better. They're both crap. But the fact that the EAR says that many people are deficient in the United States, like 95% vitamin D, the level is probably even higher than that. So that's probably estimated on the low end. The adequate intake is a recommended intake value based on observed or experimentally determined approximations or estimates of nutrient intake by group, same thing. It's used when an RDA can't be determined. And then the tolerable upper intake level is the highest level of nutrient intake that is likely to pose no adverse risk. So something that is vitally important to understand: neither the RDA or the EAR are based on health. Let me repeat that. Neither the RDA or the EAR are based on health. Those values are the minimum values that they've estimated that a human needs to not be sick. That is the definition. The RDA is how much you need of something to not be sick. So I don't know about you guys, but not being sick is not good enough for me. I want to be healthy or optimally healthy. The RDA and the EAR have zero to do with being healthy. They're 100% based on you not being sick. So that is what our system wants, is as many sick people as possible that they can give pills to for their whole life that typically cause more harm than good or do nothing. So this is the new crappy food diagram. They've gotten rid of the food pyramid apparently. But this is the new recommendation from the FDA and the CDC. It's slightly better than the old one, but it's still absolute hot garbage. So you should only have to look at this for 1 second to understand that this is still horrible. So we'll get into this stuff, but just briefly, a vast majority of the United States population has a problem with cow's milk. And it's not that cow's milk is technically bad for humans, but one thing to think about is humans are the only animal group that eats or drinks milk from other animals. And that's not necessarily a bad thing. We do lots of things that other animals don't do. But the fact of the matter is the vast majority, over 50% of the United States population, has an issue with milk because of all the antibiotics that cows get and how homogenized it is. And again, it's so processed that our body doesn't recognize it anymore. So dairy, there's a protein in dairy that mimics a protein in gluten that both mimic a cerebellar postsynaptic cleft. They're the same shape, more or less, than cerebellum postsynaptic cleft receptors. Gluten proteins and milk proteins, lactose proteins, they have a higher affinity for those postsynaptic cleft sites, so they outcompete the regular proteins that should be going there, and they cause brain problems. Both the milk and the gluten protein, they cross the blood-brain barrier and they attach to brain receptors that screw up your brain function. Some people can drink milk fine, but to put this on the recommended dietary intake thing is insane, because we know for a fact that over 50% of the population does not process the milk that most people eat. And the same thing goes for grains. So grains, and we'll get into this, but unless you're eating organic grains, all grains in the United States have folic acid put into it, which is a poison to human beings, period, end of story. In my humble opinion, any OBGYN that is recommending that women take folic acid should have their medical license removed, because the likelihood is there's way more than a 50% chance that by giving folic acid to any person in the United States, you're actually causing more harm than good. And we'll get into why that is, but this is a very disturbing thing that very few people know about. Basically disregard anything the government tells you to do as far as health, if you want to be healthy. And if you take the last 5 years as an example, if you do the opposite of what the CDC tells you, you'll be even healthier, because they're telling you to do the exact wrong thing to do. The food pyramid is, again, from Dr. Hyman's website. This is an actually logical, thought about food pyramid. So the government food pyramid, or the food circle, or whatever crap they call it now, that's based on bribery from the pharmaceutical companies and the big food industry companies. It's bribery. That's how folic acid got put into the food in the United States, was bribery. The food pyramid on the Dr. Hyman's pyramid is based off of actual factual science and reality. So the food pyramid is a proper way to eat. The food circle diagram on the left, total crap. The USDA food pyramid is one of the reasons why Americans are so unhealthy nowadays. So these are the USDA guidelines, FDA guidelines, as far as the core elements that make up a healthy dietary pattern. So in black is what the government tells you, and then I've crossed out some of that stuff and put in red what I recommend to my patients, and this is based off of actual reality, not some blatant lie. Right? So if that doesn't help you trust the government more, I don't know what will.